All right, everyone. Welcome to this weekend Sidereal Astrology forecast. This is for August 17th to the 19th of 2018. All right, so this weekend we do have quite a bit going on astrologically. On Friday, we have the moon in Libra, so likely themes on Friday about maybe relationships, striving towards that balance and harmony in those relationships, and maybe just balance in our life in general. Then as we get into Saturday, Mercury goes station direct, so a lot of the stuff we've been reflecting on the past few weeks or reconsidering now start to move forward with this. And what's nice about it is that Mercury is going to be sextiling Venus during that. So again, maybe some harmony in the communication, a bit of receptivity in them, and that sort of thing. And then last but certainly not least, closer to Sunday, Jupiter is going to be trining up to Neptune, which is finalizing a very large transit since December, suggesting that we have been collectively seeing a bit of the potentials that are possible in life, particularly about maybe our dreams or our ideals. So good to solidify this, likely some integration with this, and if there has been anything since around December, finalizing that as well. All right, so let's look at all of this here in more detail when we return. All right, so here's the sky. We're going to look at this first for Friday. Again, we are using the actual size of the constellations, which does change the signs from mainstream astrology. So if you do notice some of the signs are different, be sure to check out the link down below for more information. All right, so Libra, the scales. Here the theme on Friday, most likely about finding balance in life. This does very often involve relationships, so finding that middle ground in relationships, harmony, striving towards that. Also maybe themes around mutuality, justice, doing the right thing, morality, things like this. If it's not interpersonal for you, then just balance in your personal life. Really good for that as well. Finding that balance. If there's any areas that are out of balance, good to bring the scales back into that balance and maybe put some energy into some other areas, or again, strive towards that sort of life harmony there. All right, so that's likely the theme, and really good on Friday when we are approaching life with this willingness to strive towards balance and what's right. We likely feel very good with the moon here, and that helps things move forward in this lunar cycle. So speaking of that lunar cycle, actually, this is all in the context of the fact that exactly a week ago we did have a new moon. So we are in the first quarter phase of the lunar cycle, which means it's a great weekend for challenging ourselves. If there's been anything new this past week, great to set intentions with this stuff, move some things forward, right? It's all about following through with the grounded qualities and conscious qualities of integration and action during the first quarter phase. So yeah, that's Friday and that first quarter of the weekend. Now, in terms of the aspects, as we get into Saturday, Mercury starts to go station and sextiles up to Venus. So now, Mercury going direct. If there has been things you've been reconsidering perhaps these past few weeks, or maybe things you've been reworking or have been on the back burner, now they're slowly starting to move forward. Now, mind you, during the station period, it is paused. So it is a good weekend to still kind of pause with these things. But more than likely, along with this, is this kind of maybe shift of insight, shift of perspective, or maybe even some ideas or something coming in that then allows for that shift. So good to do that. Maybe pause the mind, pause the routine, perhaps if you're guided to these types of things, if it is involving anything that you've been thinking about or reconsidering these past 3 weeks. Now with this, Mercury sextiling Venus is not a major aspect, but it is kind of nice to see this opening here, where we could have a bit of harmony perhaps in our communications, or just a bit of receptivity there, maybe in terms of what we're thinking about, right? Maybe a bit of good creative imagination, just this good receptive energy with our mind and communications. So it does favor those types of things, again, with the consideration that Mercury is stationed and paused, but there is this opening for a bit of that Venusian, easygoing, receptive type of energy, maybe in those personal communications, or just maybe enjoying some learning, writing, reading, things like that. All right, so Saturday, we will notice a shift probably in the later part of Saturday going into Sunday, and this is going to be the moon shifting into Scorpio. So themes likely the first part of Saturday still about, again, finding that balance. But as we get into Sunday, more into the Scorpio energy. So Scorpio, of course, is the deeper dimensions of life. We'll likely notice some themes about becoming more aware of the deeper dimensions and what truly matters most in life. So good to do this consciously. Anything we can do to bring that conscious attention to the inner world, to the unconscious, to the spiritual body, things like this, to essentially accept, right? To accept the deeper dimensions of life and all of the things that maybe we've buried under the rug or just are naturally things that we store away that then get resolved and accepted during the transits of Scorpio and Ophiuchus. So this is going to take us into Monday of next week. So these next few days, really good for that, becoming aware of the deeper and accepting. And it's through that accepting that we do heal and transform with this type of energy. Also really good for vulnerability in general, because of course, in order to do that, we do have to be vulnerable with ourselves and perhaps others that we're close to and want to build trust with in our personal lives. So really good for that vulnerability and openness in our own time, in our own way, and in the right conditions. Because with Scorpio, of course, we still do need to set boundaries, protect our feelings, which is the moon, but in the right time and circumstance, letting those walls come down for ourselves and those that we're close to. All right, and the most important thing this weekend with this, especially, all weekend, but especially as we increase into Sunday, Jupiter is going to be trining up to Neptune for the last and final time. So this has been going on since December 2nd. If there has been anything this year that you felt a bit open-minded about or felt inspired about, particularly if it has to do with your ideals or dreams, this could be the solidification of maybe those tangible things, but that's not as important as what's, solidifying with our perspective. Seeing this maybe new perspective of how things do happen in divine timing, how there is this ebb and flow, perhaps to our path, perhaps to those ideals or the way we view possibilities and potentials. And so this does solidify a bit of this, integration of more receptivity for all of us collectively and a greater willingness to expand our horizons to what is possible. And through that, maybe some solidifications with this, and final things culminating if there has been anything tangible since December. All right. Do give it time, of course. It's a very slow-moving transit, and it is still going into next week. All right, everyone. So that's the weekend in a nutshell. Most important thing is that on Friday, great day for striving towards that balance, mutuality, harmony with the moon in Libra. As we shift into Saturday, later part of Saturday, getting into the deeper dimensions of life, to accept and transform. With that being said, Mercury going station direct, anything that has been on the back burner about communication, correspondence, learning, reconsidering things, starts to slowly move forward with that pause. And with that pause, a bit of receptivity and harmony with the mind, with what we're thinking about, with communication, right, and these types of things. And then finalizing what has been since December, Jupiter trining Neptune, this cultivation of greater receptivity to what's possible, to the ebb and flows of life, and just seeing the how things do happen in divine timing with that life path. All right. So have a fantastic weekend, everyone. Thank you again for watching, and I will see you all on Monday for the daily forecast.